So the other day, I was recommended a video titled "Sound Transit Keeps Failing, They Need to Give Up." In it, a suit-clad pundit opines that the Greater Seattle Transit Agency's light rail bridge over Lake Washington is an expensive, poorly planned, and disaster-laden boondoggle that's probably never going to open.
It's time to embrace reality. Light rail is never connecting Seattle and SeaTac to Bellevue and Redmond.
It doesn't take much critical thinking to see through his arguments. Sound Transit is still hard at work building the first permanent floating railroad bridge in human history, and if it takes more time, money, and construction than was hoped for, well, that's nothing unusual for building unusual infrastructure. Most people are nowhere near the point of rationally declaring the Lake Washington Bridge a failure that should be given up on. Indeed, by and large, transit projects in the US that get past the planning stage and into serious construction are pretty much guaranteed to open to the public sooner or later, albeit sometimes with budget overruns, hurdles, and loud critics. Very rarely is a transit project abandoned completely when most of the work is done, without carrying a single passenger, as this pundit claims to want. But that's not to say it hasn't happened. Well, I'll probably be on the 2-line to downtown Seattle before too long, no matter what our sharply dressed friend says. I will most certainly never ride on America's first Maglev. This is a story that I've been wanting to tell on Classy Whale for a long time, and who better to tell it with than one of my favorite internet storytellers, Tor from Tor's Cabinet of Curiosities.
I'm your co-host, Tor Parsons. This is my co-host, Classy Whale, and welcome to Classy's Cabinet of Whales.
Tor has actually been on a Maglev, so I figured he would be qualified to be in this video.
A maglev is essentially a frictionless railway. You know how magnets can repel each other? Put strong magnets on the underside of a train, put strong magnets polarized the same way on the track, and the repelling force is so intense that the train hovers above the track. Bingo. No friction. That's a maglev, a magnetic levitation train. Here's me riding one in Shanghai.
Doesn't sound like it has wheels, does it?
I am so bummed I never got to ride that during my trips to China. And that's because you can't really ride them very many other places.
But that's not to say nobody ever tried to build a maglev on these shores. In fact, in the early 2000s, one was built and tested for public operation at the strangest of places, a university in Virginia.
Old Dominion University is located in Norfolk, Virginia. It's got about 23,000 students, and its campus is about 250 acres. To walk from one end to the other takes about 15 or so minutes. That can be a pretty long time, especially in poor weather. So in December 1999, news broke on the school website that the campus would become host to the first publicly accessible maglev train in the United States, a proof of concept for larger systems. Much like how, decades earlier, West Virginia University built America's first and only personal rapid transit system with government help as a proof of concept. The proposed line would connect residence halls on Powhatan Avenue, the Ted Constant Convocation Center, and a university parking garage on a straight, 1-kilometer railway, with a single maglev car gliding back and forth at up to 40 miles per hour, providing free rides every 4 minutes. This animation, posted to YouTube by Brian Williamson, shows what it might have looked like. And this wasn't just a pipe dream. It had serious financial backing. The state of Virginia loaned $7 million to the project. An additional $7 million came from private companies, such as Lockheed Martin, who would design components of the system. And a final $2 million was funded by the federal government.
The article on ODU's website announcing the maglev is truly a bizarre read, and that has a lot to do with the company actually overseeing the system's construction. American Maglev. Remember that $7 million loan from the state of Virginia? Well, American Maglev planned to pay it off by building a much longer maglev from Norfolk to Washington, D.C. by 2007. This does not exist. It probably won't surprise you to know that this company was run by a man who I can only describe as the real-life Simpsons monorail guy. His name was Tony Morris, and his story is so bizarre that I'll be coming out with a video soon about him, featuring Caleb on my own channel. Or it might already be out, depends on when you're watching this.
ODU's College of Engineering and Technology was to be involved in the maglev's construction. University president James V. Koch believed it would be a marvelous opportunity for students and that it could set an international standard. The Shanghai maglev that Tor rode hadn't yet been completed as of this article's writing. But just a paragraph later, he goes on to say that if the challenges of designing the maglev weren't met, the university would develop an alternate transportation system based on what had already been built, and that there was provision for American Maglev to remove the whole system at their expense, should it become necessary. If you're enjoying this video, consider supporting this video on Patreon. You'll get access to the Patreon exclusive Discord where I help people make their own train and transit videos, early access to videos, and access to my Patreon only after show Extra Whale, where this week I'll be interviewing Tor about his creative process. And Tor, your co-host Jollibee the Durian broke into my apartment in the last video, or rather, he kind of phased through the wall.
Oh, that's alright, yeah, I just sent him to Philly for location scouting. If he's bored, you can put him in your motion graphic. He enjoys that.
Okay, then.
ODU broke ground on their groundbreaking maglev in August 2001 with a rousing speech from Virginia's Lieutenant Governor John Hager, in which he boldly proclaimed that the price of progress is risk. Bold words for sure, especially coming from a lieutenant governor, America's easiest job. American Maglev claims on their website that the track was built in just 37 days, although per Mace and Crown, the ODU school newspaper, there were difficulties along the way, such as unstable ground, and a gas main was struck at least once, leading to the evacuation of a campus building. In 2002, the Maglev vehicle arrived by truck from American Maglev's facility in Edgewater, Florida. Here's another one of Nate's videos showing it being lowered onto the ODU track by a crane.
Now, this Maglev car had already completed successful test runs along the track in Edgewater, but when they tried to power it up in Virginia, it didn't go quite so well. The car barely moved 45 feet during tests, shaking violently, losing levitation stability, and stopping on the track. Now how the heck did that happen? Well, here's the thing. The Edgewater track was on the ground. The ODU track was several feet in the air, and when your track is several feet in the air, there's going to be more variation and irregularity. For example, if you have a horizontal beam supported by two vertical columns, the beam is going to sag ever so slightly in the middle. A rubber-tired monorail, like the one I just rode at Disney World, can handle those irregularities. But a maglev needs a precise cushion of air between it and the rail. Put some discrepancies in the track, and the whole system is thrown off. The American Maglev car, which had been tested in a much more controlled environment, simply didn't have the complex magnetic suspension system to run on the Virginia track.
Surprisingly, American Maglev has the whole story of this failure on their website, with their own interesting spin. Here's what they say. AMT was assured by its engineers and team of strategic partners that there would not be any problem in transitioning the vehicle from solid ground onto an elevated guideway. There was, in fact, a problem. The vehicle was not as flexible as the engineers first thought. The stiff vehicle, combined with the flexible beams of the elevated guideway, created problems with levitation. As it turns out, there was a very simple solution to this problem. The vehicle needed to have a proper suspension system in order to make it more flexible. This solution, however, became apparent after the project was put to rest due to lack of funding. Yeah, alright, sure, yeah, throw the engineers under the bus. Clearly you've got everything under control, American Maglev. If the test track didn't have the same kind of track as the final project, what then is even the point of having a test track?
Funding for the continued development of the Maglev never came together. Instead, ODU parted ways with American Maglev and removed their contractual obligation to demolish the Maglev track. Instead, for the next 2 decades, it was occasionally used as a testbed for Maglev technologies, and students would regularly use it as shade from the sun and shelter from the rain as they walked from class to class. Despite its campus nickname of Monofail and Failrail, it became a beloved if wonky campus institution, until most of it was torn down in 2023. Only a small portion still remains over Hampton Boulevard, welcoming people to ODU.
To this day, nobody has ever opened a commercially operating maglev in North America, and it may be a very long time before someone does. The most likely candidate right now is the Toronto Zoo, which is currently in partnership with an Edmonton-based consortium called Maglev Transportation to build a maglev for the zoo campus. Maglev has some pretty large-scale partners, including once again Lockheed Martin, but it's been a few years since the last public update, so I'm not holding my breath. I just hope they build an elevated test track this time.
If you would like to learn the truly bonkers history of the company behind the ODU Maglev, check out the video we made on Tor's channel, unless of course you're watching this on Patreon, in which case that will be up next week. Special thanks to Tor Parsons for joining me on this video.
Thanks for having me on! I'd heard about the ODU maglev loosely in the past, but I had no idea it had such a crazy story behind it, let alone one that Classy and I could each make whole episodes about. Tag yourself, are you a whale or are you a catfish?
And if you guys don't watch Tor yet, I would highly recommend his channel. It is full of curiosities. In fact, dare I say, a cabinet of them. I'll see myself out.